Today's video is going to be about fragrances that contain fragrance notes that I don't generally like, but they work for me in these fragrances. Um, I'm just going to go ahead and get into this video. You have no idea how many times I've tried to film this video and things are just not coming out right. So I'm just going to move into the first fragrance, okay? This is Acqua di Parma. And this is vanilla, okay? I'm just gonna show you the presentation and the fragrance. So, this fragrance, vanilla, is supposed to be, and what I thought I was getting, this was a blind buy, is vanilla, okay? But this is not a straight up vanilla. When I think of vanilla, I'm a vanilla lover. So when I think of vanilla, I think of a baker's vanilla. I think of something sweet, not necessarily syrupy all the time, but sweet, deep, rich. This fragrance, when you spray it, definitely contains a lot of green, okay? So green is a note that is difficult for me because it's very, it can be very vegetal, stemmy, leafy. It works in this fragrance. When you spray it, you get a lot of, like I said, the green. It's powdery, almost a baby powderyness, if you can say. There's jasmine in this fragrance, and so where I think the green note is coming from is maybe a green jasmine. I'll put the notes up for sure, but as this fragrance develops, it becomes more deep, more sweet, more vanillic, okay? So it's more rich as it develops, more traditionally vanilla. But when you spray this, and overall, I think this is a powdery green vanillic fragrance, okay? So this is not a traditional vanilla. This is a vanilla that people who don't necessarily like vanilla may consider trying because it's not your traditional vanilla. It's something that is not syrupy sweet. It's nothing too heavy. I think this is a completely unisex fragrance. It's interesting. So this is green. This is something that I would not generally gravitate toward naturally, but done in a way with some notes that I do like, to where I can enjoy it in this fragrance. So this is Vanilla by Acqua di Parma, and it contains a green note that I don't always get along with. So the next fragrance is Twilly by Hermes. This is Twilly de Hermes. This is Oh Ginger, okay? I could have easily included the original Twilly in this fragrance, or in this video, but this is my favorite. There is a ginger note that's in here that's more pronounced than the original Twilly, and there's also a note of peony that's in here that I love. So in general, what I love about these fragrances that I would not have loved in the past is that they are very soapy. They're very clean. In the past, I've worn very strong fragrances, like strong, sweet, incensey, white florals. I've worn Angel in the past, a lot of fruity florals. And these are fragrances, profiles that I wore when I was first starting out in my fragrance journey. But as I've grown, I've learned to appreciate these beautiful soapy fragrances. And this is what I get from this fragrance. It's very warm. Well, maybe not very warm, but I do get a warmth from it. It reminds me of being in a shower, and the temperature from the shower is warm. And bathing with a white bar of soap that's maybe scented with some peony and some ginger. It's really beautiful. I definitely have come to appreciate what soapy fragrances do for a fragrance collection, the place that they do have in my fragrance collection, and with my moods and in places that I need to be in. They definitely are appropriate for me, and I have come to love soapy fragrances, and this is definitely one of my favorites. So this is Twilly d'Hermes. This is Eau Ginger, okay? Another fragrance note, not necessarily something that I didn't like, just as the Twilly, but just something that I never really gave a lot of attention to because it was kind of uninteresting to me as I was, being younger. I wanted something fun, something that was going to grab your attention, something that wasn't ordinary. So the fragrances I mentioned above were very, loud and sweet, youthful. And so I would never have considered a pure musk fragrance, specifically a pure white musk fragrance. I definitely have always loved what musk has done for fragrances, but a white musk fragrance is something that I would never have considered. I felt like it was just boring. I have recently purchased Royal Musca by M. Micallef, and it's just that. It's something that is not exciting, I have to say. It's definitely not an exciting fragrance, but it is something that definitely has a place in my collection. I know when I would wear this fragrance. This is something that I would wear because I'm skipping around. Something that I would wear to bed, something that I would wear fresh out of the shower, if I were going to go to work, or places where I need to be, where my fragrance needs to be a little bit subdued. This is perfect. It's not going to kill people. It's not going to overwhelm people. It's not going to bring all the attention to me, but when I'm around, I'm going to smell good, and that's what I love this fragrance for. I have a lot of white musk fragrances that I have purchased lately, and that I've had in my collection in general, but this one is done in a different way. It's like a traditionally kind of lukewarm to warm musky fragrance. And it's beautiful. This is something, like I said, it's not that exciting, but it definitely has a place in my collection. And I think it has a place in many people's collections as well. So this is Royal Musca by M. Micallef. The next fragrance that I'm going to mention contains the note of fig. Fig is really hard for me because it feels coconutty, and I'm going to move forward here. I don't really enjoy the note of coconut in a lot of compositions. I don't know what it is. I just don't vibe with it the way it's executed. But in this fragrance, the fig in particular is done really well. And this is Gris Charnel by BDK. Now, I have to say that I've never had a full bottle of this fragrance. When I bought this bottle, it was probably about double the amount that I've had that you see here. Probably about double the amount that you see here. It was at a great discount, and I just wanted to know if I needed this fragrance in my collection, and I would say that I do. I wasn't sure because of the fig. This is definitely a beautiful creamy, so I think the fig adds a milkiness to it, and this is a woody fragrance. It's fresh. It has a black tea note. Oh, this is really, really beautiful for the fall. Black tea note. There is also some spices in here. It's woody, it's creamy, it's smooth, it's soft, a little bit powdery. This is a fragrance that is really, really beautiful. Definitely unisex. I'll probably get a full bottle of this, but this is a fig done in a way that I appreciate and that I can handle. So this is Gris Charnel by BDK. The next fragrance with that fig, continuing with the coconut theme, this is Lolli Bella by Memo. This is a fragrance that has actual coconut in it, and what I get, I mentioned this in my last video, I get a lot of, it's kind of a fragrance that has an oily nature to it, excuse me, a rosy, oily nature to it that I can pick up, but there are also some flashes of coconut that I get in here that I feel are really beautiful. It's a dry coconut, and it's like a toasted coconut, and it's definitely a coconut that I enjoy. So as I said before, coconut is definitely not one of my favorite notes, but in here, in this composition, I definitely appreciate the way that it comes across. Um, Beautiful. So this is Lolly Bella by Memo. Um, I also have trouble getting along with beachy fragrances. I have trouble with yellow florals. And I have to say, I found a fragrance that doesn't necessarily have any yellow florals in it, but the way that it comes across, because for me, yellow florals are very sweet, they're kind of heavy, they're warm, and they remind me of tropical environments. This is Mutiny by Mason Martin Margiela, and I should not, I don't think I should get yellow florals. I don't think that I should get beachy from this fragrance, because from the notes when I was picking it, I would have never guessed that. This has a lot of fruity notes. There's orange, there's peach, there's green apple, there is, I think, pink pepper, there's suede, saffron in here. And so I think there's orange blossom and tuberose. There's really nothing that screams beachy to me. None of those notes say anything about it being a beachy fragrance to me, but I think the way it all comes together, this is a very smooth fragrance, no rough edges at all. I would almost say that this is a, aside from being mass appealing, which I think that a lot of people might like this fragrance, I would say this is one of those fragrances that you would get in the perfume portion of maybe the, you know, the department store, where everything is kind of blending together. It's not too much of anything. I will say that it is creamy, it's smooth, and without being too much of anything, with all of, look at that atomizer, you guys, it's beautiful. With everything blended the way that it's blended, I definitely pick up fruits when I first spray it, but as it's in the air and as it lingers, there's something about it that gives me yellow florals, that gives me beachy, and it's not overwhelming. It's definitely not so prominent that I would say this is the focus of the fragrance, but I would definitely say that it's there. It's subtle but present enough to pick out. So it's not the focus of the fragrance, but you're definite. Well, I have to say, I have to only speak for myself, that I pick out a beachy nature to this fragrance in a subtle way. And that works really well for me. I don't think that I could tolerate much more if it were, let me show you the cap. It's really just a see-through top. It's cool. I don't think that I could tolerate something that were much more, that I would interpret as much more beachy than this. And this is Mutiny by Mason Martin Margiela. If you guys have any experience with this fragrance, put it in the comments. Let me know what you get, because this one is interesting. Like I said, it's smooth, it's fruity, subtly beachy. There is a subtle beachy nature to this fragrance that I get anyway. So let me know what you guys get in the comments. Another fragrant note that I wouldn't have, I would never have purchased a fragrance with this note that is primarily, I guess I should just go ahead and pick it up because I can't make my words around what I'm trying to say. This is Shangtung by Etro. So this is a very botanical rose fragrance. I had to come to love roses, okay? So I do love roses, but starting out, I definitely did not love roses. And through sampling, as I think happened through all of these fragrances, my palette developed and I grew a love for rose fragrances. Not necessarily rose-centric, not necessarily soliflor rose, but definitely compositions that had a prominent note of rose. This fragrance is undeniably red, wet rose with the stem, so there's some greenness to this as well. This is a botanical rose, and you can't get much more, literal than that. And I do love smelling roses from a garden, or just out and about anywhere. But as far as my fragrance preferences go, I would have never chosen this fragrance starting out. Um, but now I love it. I love rose fragrances. It has to be one of my favorite notes. I think it's battling white flowers at this point. But this fragrance by Etro, Shangtung, is watery, and it's fresh enough to battle hot days, and it's fresh enough to battle humidity. So you're just gonna come out, as they say, I'm gonna be kind of corny here, smelling like a rose. Definitely with this Shangtung Etro, it's very crisp and fresh and rosy, fresh, clean, wet rose. Again, I would have never ever thought about loving this fragrance, or I would have never loved this fragrance. I would have just put it to the side. It didn't reflect me in the past, but now I feel like it completely does. So that's that. The next fragrance we're going to talk about contains the note of leather. Leather is something that I like the idea of, but I don't often find fragrances with leather that I do actually enjoy. A while back, I tried Halfeti by Penhaligon's, and I love the way that it presented itself in the air, but close to me and on my skin, it's just something that I wasn't able to tolerate. So I did give it away. I gave away my sample, but finding this fragrance, this is by Lattafa, and this is Kaede. Um, I don't know what it is about that, and I actually don't know if I would love Halfeti at this point in my fragrant journey. I may. This fragrance contains a leather note that is really fresh, really clean. There's also some woody notes in here. This fragrance also contains a heavy dose of vanilla, which is from the beginning, as I said, one of my, if I didn't say, it's one of my favorite fragrant notes. So I think it helps to combine everything in a way that helps to represent the type of fragrances that I like. So this is leather done in a way that I definitely like. I would say this would be a cool weather fragrance for me. Not something that I would wear. Well, I mean, like I said before, I think that it could be a warm weather fragrance because it does have a dryness to it. Smelling it in the air now, experiencing it now, I think I just need to test it more, but I feel like it could either work in the warmer weather or the cooler weather. I think I'm looking toward cooler weather because that's where we're headed. I think I might try to wear it a few times now that it's still a little bit warm, but I'm enjoying this. I think the bright leather, the clean leather, and the dryness of it would help it to not be overwhelming in the warmer weather. So an anytime fragrance is what I'm assuming that it would be. I'm definitely going to try it out now, like I said, in the warmer weather, but definitely in the cooler weather. This is Kaede by Lattafa, okay? And the last fragrance that we have is one by Chanel. This is Allure. This is one of my favorites. This is the EDP. This is a peachy, vanillic fragrance that also has a note of vetiver. I interpreted it when I first got this fragrance to be oak moss. Oak moss is a fragrance note that I don't typically get along with easily. I feel like it's very retro, it's vintage, and in heavy doses, it just turns me off. This, I feel a little bit of vintage or retro in the back end of this fragrance. So when I spray it, I definitely get a fresh feeling. I get the peaches, I get the vanilla, and I get a slight woody nature. I've always said this feels like a body cream. But getting used to it, getting my nose accustomed to it, I definitely love this fragrance. This is definitely easy for me to wear. It's one of my favorites. But again, something that I would not have thought twice about in the beginning of my fragrance journey. So I think I'm saying all of these things to say I appreciate sampling so much because it definitely has grown my palette. I definitely want fragrances in my collection that are not easy or how can I say not I was gonna say not easy for me to love. Um, but what I think I really mean is not my traditional go-tos. I want things that that make me work a little bit, but still things that I enjoy. Okay, I don't want to work too hard to enjoy my fragrances. That is a boundary for me. I want to enjoy and love my fragrances, but I do believe that you can develop your palette and enjoy notes that you may not like done in a certain way or in a certain consistency. But if it's done in the right way, I think that you can find things that you may not necessarily think that you like done in a way that you do appreciate. So keep your minds open, keep your noses open, keep sampling, keep trying things, and I'm sure that you'll find things that you don't expect to like. And I think that is a very important part of those of us who are on this fragrance journey, who enjoy smelling fragrances and discovering new things. I think that's really important. But I think that's all for today. That's all I wanted to say. You guys leave your opinions in the comments. What fragrances do you like that you would not have loved when you first started collecting fragrances or when you first got into fragrances? How has your nose or your palette grown? Yeah, that's it for today. Love, Jay. Bye-bye.